channel. I'm Aaron. On the last video, I talked about taking the parking lights from the front of the 49 and changing them from a single filament to a dual filament bulb so we could run them for the parking lights and the turn signals. So I got the parking light removed from the truck, and the fixture for the bulb screws in from this screw on the back. So I went ahead and took it apart and looked at it. The whole socket comes out. So I went to the local parts store and found a dual filament 2-wire socket, and I'm going to modify this to fit this bracket so we can bolt it back into the housing and make the light dual purpose like we want to. So I'm going to go ahead and trim this down so it's the right size. I'm going to trim this down so we can mount that to that, and then we'll see how it works out. So I got the sockets cut down off of both pieces. Now I'm going to take this and set it on there and make a little mark. Probably a little bit hard to see the marker there on the camera, but that way I know the size of this. I'm going to go ahead and trim this spot out, and then we can solder that back on there, and we'll have our fixture back for our light. Okay, so I got this marked over there on the bench. Just going to follow our line, cut it out. Set up a little jig here with my pieces that I trimmed up to make the socket. I'm just going to go ahead and use a little bit of regular solder and kind of braze this together. Give that a second to cool off, and then we'll flip it over and put a little more solder on the bottom side. Alright, it's all cooled off now. You can see it's got a good bond, good and strong. Set this back in here. Looks like everything's gonna fit. It's nice and straight. And go ahead and reassemble our socket. Put our bulb in there. And put this back in the housing. Make sure the wires are out of the way where they're not gonna be touching the hot bulb all the time. We got our new same old light, dual filament, so we can run our parking lights and our turn signals. All we gotta do is check it, make sure the solder's making a good connection for the ground and that it's gonna work for us. Easiest way to check this is we're just gonna grab our power probe here and a battery. We can go ahead and put our ground there since that's where the ground's going to be going to the vehicle. We just go ahead and shoot power to each wire. Make sure the bulb lights up. We're good to go. We got us a dual filament parking light. Okay, we're going to start making the harness for the back. Went ahead and routed the wires down through the rubber grommet and the frame rail where they were, factory location. And then just grab some wire and start running stuff. Using pretty good quality heat shrink butt connectors. I'm a big fan of these. They make a nice connection and they seal up real good. Checked these before I put them on the other day, and one with the black stripe is the brighter filament, so that's going to be the brake light / turn signal. Go ahead and hook that up. And then our other light's going to be our parking light. These are grounded through the bracket, so we don't have to run a ground wire for them. I don't want to secure anything until we get it all done, so I can put it all together. Route these right along here. Bring them down. Frame right here. I'm going to go ahead and splice this clearance light in with the other side. there so we can keep it in the frame rail here. Get these headed that way. I'm going to go ahead and shrink the butt connectors down now. You always want to make sure you don't get too much heat on these because I've seen it actually melt the coating off and makes it bare. Then they're kind of pointless. A lot of people use a heat gun to do this. Probably a smarter way to do it. Puts more even heat and no flame, but it's the way I've always done it. It works for me. I'm gonna make an actual harness with everything from back here that runs up the frame rail to the cab for the truck. Got this connector I harvested off of a 76 Chevy C10. It's gonna have everything I need. That way the rear harness can be all by itself and it can be unplugged, so if anything ever happens, you need to change anything or unhook it or something like that, you don't have to cut it and splice it and all that. You can just unplug it and it'll be separate. So I'm going to put that on the other side of this cross member, but I'm going to bring the wires for the tank over by it too, so it can all run together. So now I'm going to go ahead and loom this up and P-clamp it. That way I'll have my length right, so I don't screw it up and have to do it all later. So I'll go ahead and get that done and be back in a second. Alright, I got all the wiring done up to the plug I showed you guys earlier that I was going to put in there. Went ahead, ran everything and loomed it, P-clamped it to the frame, ran it through, and then you can see my plug right there. And then I got another harness running here. I got my power wire and my ground for my fuel pump, and then over here we got the power wire or the feed signal and the ground for the sending unit for the gauge. So now we'll just have to get some more wire. We'll hook up the female side of that plug and run it up front. I didn't want to put the power wire for the fuel pump through the plug because I want to keep it separate. So it's just going to run next to that harness. So we'll get going on that. Went ahead and got the rest of the rear harness made up. Tied into my plug in there. Ran it all the way up the frame rail underneath the cab. Brought it up, hid it down there behind the motor and the distributor. You can't really see it. It's down in there. It's hidden pretty well. So other than hooking it up, that'll just about do it for the rear harness, and then we'll get going on the front. We're moving on to the front now. I went ahead and got some of it started already. Got new pigtails for the headlights, got them wired up, got the wires hanging down here so we can bring it through, and then I'm going to run all the wires down underneath the radiator support, tie that line in, run them down the frame where you won't see them. I'm not going to do a whole lot of talking about this. It's pretty much the same as the back, so I'm just going to get to it, knock it out, and highlight key points if I need to on anything certain that I'm doing. that, we got the front all wired up, headlight pigtails, got all the wires ran, routed them down around neatly, brought up, ran them down the frame rail, came up behind the motor, and I took the distributor cap off so you could see them, putting them through the firewall behind the distributor where you're not going to be able to see them when it's all together. Electric fans all wired in, got the relay, got the circuit breaker. It's all wired in back here. And then you're probably not going to be able to see this very good because it's a little dark, but just got all the wires laying on the floor for now, and we'll hook them up later on. So all the lights, everything on the front end, everything on the back end is wired into the cab. So that's a good stopping point for this video. Next video we'll go in the cab and start wiring up the lights and fan and all that stuff that we already have wired, and then we'll start working on wiring the engine and do the Holly Sniper. But that's going to do it for this video. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe. Y'all have a good one. We'll see you next time.